Hi guys, good afternoon to this webinar. Let's let's give a couple of minutes before we get to join. We'll ensure that everybody joins. Okay, let us start. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Gokul and I'm the founder of Recruit. Recruit is a talent acquisition platform. We offer AI based hiring, right from resume screening to interviews till shortlisting, and there are a number of modules that we have. Now, in today's webinar, we are going to talk about how interviews can be upgraded, interviews can be made much more interactive with the help of AI. Right now, one of the critical stages in hiring is having the conversation with the candidate. You get probably one or two chances to talk to the candidate. Probably you would get the candidate for an interview, spend an hour with the candidate, and at the end of the hour, you have to take a decision. Now, 5 hours, 6 hours, 2 days down the line, you will forget what you have spoken to the candidate. So your memories of the questions asked, the answers that the candidate gave would begin to fade away. So if your entire interview process is a week long, then you might probably not remember what you spoke to the first candidate on day one. So which is a problem. And AI can help in a lot of these, right? Now AI can assist in a lot of these, and that is what we are going to see. We're going to see what are some of the challenges that hiring managers face or HRs face when they try to have these interviews with candidates, and how can AI help them. So let's talk about the problems that we've got. On an average, right, for a particular open role, hiring managers spend around 22 to 30 hours only on interviews, right? Now that could be the first round of interviews, the second round of interviews, talking to multiple candidates, and this is just the hiring manager. We have not taken into consideration the recruiters, the HR managers, and the other team members who spend time interviewing the candidate. Now that's a lot of time for every open role. Imagine what happens if a hiring manager has to hire 5 people in a month. Now that's a lot of time the hiring manager will spend on on hiring, on interviews. Now the next major problem that we see, and this is something that every organization has told us, is missing or weak notes, right? Because the hiring manager is so busy, and the hiring manager has is juggling between various priorities. Not a lot of them actually write detailed notes, which goes back to the problem that I spoke at the start. In a week's time, you will kind of forget how the candidate performed, right? You might forget that the small details that you have noticed during the interview. So which becomes a problem, because if you do not have notes, how do you compare one candidate with another candidate in a very objective manner? Unless and until you have clear notes, you will also not be able to track metrics, right? Now 1 year down the line, let's say the candidate has performed really well, or the candidate is not performing very well. How do you measure quality of hire? How do you measure, okay, how did we hire this guy who has performed really well? What did we do right? Can we go back and check the interview notes so that we can hire similar candidates like him? You will not have those notes, right? So one of the critical problems that we have seen is lack of notes. The next thing is unstructured interviews. Unstructured interviews are something that we all have in common. Every interviewer speaks in a different way. Every interviewer conducts interview in a certain way, and also every interviewer is much more aligned with his experiences. Right? If an interviewer is has come from a particular background, he is much more aligned and open to a candidate from a similar background, which comes back to the next question: how do you compare one candidate with another candidate with such unstructured interviews? Now the last major problem is a lot of the interviewers, a lot of the be it hiring managers or HR managers take decisions based on gut feel, right? Okay, you feel that this candidate is really good, so you're going to give him a chance. Now you feel that this candidate is not really good, so you might not give him a chance, and that also is really influenced by how you decide and how what your experiences are. Now, these are some common problems with interviews. And the most important of all is in most of the cases that we've seen, the hiring manager is simply too busy, right? He's too busy. If some of these interviews could be cut short, or some of these interviews could be assisted by technology, the hiring manager would love that. Then he could spend his time on writing code, or selling the product, or generating revenue for the organization, which is what his main priority is. So with these problems, let's look at how can AI assist? Now, AI is a new technology, right? And it's kind of the buzzword now. Let's break that down. How can AI assist? Now, there are two types of interviews that are coming up in the market now. First is an AI conducted interview, which means the AI will conduct the interview. There is no need for any human involvement. It's basically replacing the human there. And then the next one is AI supported interview, where AI acts as the co pilot, where the AI sits in the background, acts as the co pilot, helps the hiring manager with questions and so forth. So these are two types of interviews that are coming up. Now, immediately when you look at these, the brain will automatically look at use cases. When does AI replace humans, or will AI replace humans, or what how does that work? Now, let me break it down, right? Let's say you are hiring for a call center and you are going to be hiring 100 customer support executives, and you need to hire them within 15 days. At that time, it is practically impossible for an interviewer to interview 200, 300 candidates and pick up the 100 best. Now, for the customer support executive, communication skills are more important. He might probably need to know a certain little bit of what the product that he is going to be supporting. So, in that particular domain. And then, if he is really good, communicative, and so forth, then you probably would take a decision. Now, in this scenario, an AI conducted interview is much better, where an AI will do the interview on the behalf of the interviewer, and probably it will evaluate the candidates quickly, and then in a short span of time, the organization will be able to hire 100 candidates. Similarly, for software development roles, or any specific roles where the initial interviews are coding interviews, or in case you are into the manufacturing sector, the initial interviews are designing a circuit, or designing a building, or something like that, where it requires very less interaction from the interviewer. Once the question is given, the candidate can then use his brain or use his experience to derive at an answer. In those scenarios as well, an AI conducted interview is much beneficial and saves a lot of time and generates a lot of value, which is a repetitive task that an interviewer need not have to do. Now, then there are interviews where there are times where you might want to hire a senior stakeholder, right? You might want to hire a general manager for automation, or a general manager for sales, or a senior marketing manager. So in those cases, obviously, you can't expect the senior folks to do an AI conducted interview, right? Now, in that case, you only get one chance, because the person that you are interviewing is also very senior, very busy, and you get only one chance, and you want to really nail that particular interview, right? You want to be able to do your best to go in depth, understand the experience, enable the connection. That's where AI supported interview, or AI as a co-pilot, will really help. Now, also, let's say, for example, in certain roles where you are trying to talk to the candidate, but as a hiring manager, I have got these 30, 40 questions that I want the hiring manager to the HR to ask and shortlist the candidates. But I also want my HR to do an in-depth, deep interview, right? Because if my HR does a deep interview as a hiring manager, then that makes my job easier. Then I can focus on stuff that really matter to the role. But then the subject matter expertise and the basic stuff are already taken care by the HR. In those cases, the HR might not be an expert. The HR might not be a subject matter expertise, and they might not dig deep. That's where an AI supported interview also helps, because the AI supported interview would ask questions, prompt questions, and then enable the HR to ask those questions and not worry about the answer, right? So it basically acts like a friend, as an assistant to the interviewer, to ensure the interviews go in a very structured and deep manner. So those are the use cases, and those are the two types of interviews that we can think of. Now, for this particular webinar, for the rest of the 20 minutes, let's concentrate on AI supported interviews. How can AI enable interviewers, humans, to conduct interviews in a better way? So, what is AI interview? Now, I'm going to introduce Leah Assist, which is our AI interview co-pilot, which is our platform. Just to provide a context and just to give an idea of how the AI interview co-pilot would work. Right now, what would an AI interview co-pilot would do? First is, it would suggest role specific questions and follow-ups. Or even before that, the most important stuff is, it will not replace the human, the interviewer. It will not talk to the candidate. The interviewer will still have to talk to the candidate. So the AI interview co-pilot will work in the background and will enable the conversation between the interviewer and the candidate. So that's the background, right? That's the baseline. The AI will not initiate a conversation with the candidate at all. It just sits in the background and just watches the conversation between the interviewer and the candidate, and then will prompt the right questions to the interviewer to ask. And then once the candidate has answered, it will pick up the answer and prompt the follow-up question. For example, the candidate says, "I've done this project." Then the AI will say, okay, it will prompt to the interviewer to ask, okay, in this project, can the candidate ask any, can the candidate provide a specific example of how he did this? So the first thing is, the interviewer need not have to be worried about what questions am I going to ask, because the questions will be prompted. So not, they don't have to worry about the answer. They don't have to worry about notes, because everything the AI will, the note keeping, everything the AI will generate, and generate a detailed report. So what that means is, I can go into the interview with a fresh mind. I just have to look at the questions the AI has prompted. From there, that's the lead. From there, I can ask subsequent questions. If I run out of questions, the AI will give me more questions to ask, and then I don't have to worry about note taking, because the AI will generate the notes and AI will record the conversation, right? So let's say 1 week down the line, there is a detailed report, and I also have the recording where I can go and re see the recordings to get an understanding of how this went. Which again means that 1 year down the line, these recordings, as interviews, will still be available. So if a candidate has fared really well and you want more candidates like him, you know how this candidate was selected. This is a blessing for busy hiring managers. Hiring managers are very busy, and organizations who conduct 2-3 rounds. This is a blessing. The reason is because this enables the HRs to conduct in-depth interviews. The HRs can use this AI interview to ask for a coding. Right? They can say, "Okay, here is a coding question. Can you please code in front of me?" and not worry about the answer, right? Or the HRs can ask for a very deep behavioral question belonging to a subject that they are not an expert, and then not worry about the answer. So this really helps. And the most important advantage is this: you could go in depth, right? You could go as deep as possible to get the outcome for candidates. And that this also helps in another scenario. A lot of the organizations outsource interviews, especially startups outsource interviews to third party, right? There are third party interviewing organizations. Now, there is no need for that. If the AI can do that job, prompt and help, there is no need for third party interviewers to actually be needed for interviewing. So that's how an AI interview copilot will help. Now I will stop here and let me show you how this all works, right? Because English is all great unless you see, right, how this works. So that gives you an idea of what this is, how this works. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to share our interview platform for a quick 60 seconds, and then show how this all works. Okay, let me stop sharing, and I'm going to I'm going to stop my camera, and then I'm going to share now. Just a second. Cool. I hope I'm so let's join the interview. So I'm joining in as the employer, right? For context, I'm joining in as the employer interviewer. I'm going to use our platform, and then there is going to be a candidate on the other side, and then I'm going to show you how this all looks. Okay, let me. So I have joined in as the employer, and you'll see that the AI sits in the background. And this is for a full stack developer role. You will see that the AI has already provided the questions, identified the questions here that it has already identified the questions here that I can ask. Gopal, who has joined, is acting as the candidate. Now I can start talking to the candidate, right? And I can ask the question. Gopal can answer. Let's say I want him to answer a coding question. I have sent a coding question to Gopal, and I'll ask Gopal to share his screen and then code. The AI will open up a text editor or a coding editor for Gopal to code. You can also ask Gopal to share his screen. What this means is, uh, in the same interview, we are enabling the AI is enabling the candidate to code as well. So it's both a coding assessment as well as a normal interview. Now, this also provides another important question, right? How do we know that this interview is authentic? Now, that's where AI interviews can help as well, because with virtual interviews, a lot of these virtual interviews, you do not know how authentic the response is from the other side, whether the other side requires is actually using mobile phone or using ChatGPT to respond, right? Now, with the help of AI, those things can be taken care of, because as once the candidate logs in, the AI starts monitoring the candidate's laptop as well, which means if he opens another tab, or if he opens a ChatGPT or other things, that is tracked. Also, then what happens is, the response is also, AI also correlates the response with popular LLMs to check if this was a copy of or if this plagiarized from any other sources. So it really adds value. Now, the transcribes are available. The follow-up questions, as you talk, the follow-up questions are provided. You can ask new questions. So this enables the conversation to an entirely different level. So I'll stop here. Stop sharing, and let's go back to the slide. Thank you, Gopal. That was a quick 2-minute look and feel. So I hope now you understand how this all works, how an AI can support in an interview. So let me stop sharing, and I'm going to share my screen again. Now at this stage, let me stop and ask for questions. Any questions so far? Okay, there is a question around how long can this interview be? I mean, obviously, there is no start timeline for these questions. These interviews can go on forever, right? 1 hour, 1.5 hours, as long as the candidate has got the motivation to respond to your questions. Cool. Can this be in different languages? Yes, of course. This AI interviews can be in different languages. You can use your different languages. It is multilingual, right? There is a question around uh, what roles can be done for this. So as I mentioned, okay, it's also saying, can any niche roles be done? Yes, of course. Niche roles can also be interviewed through this platform. There is no there is no restriction for what roles you can use. You can use niche roles as well. So now let's move on. Let's move on. So, what are the key benefits? Now, we explained what is AI supported interviews. We showed how the AI supported interviews looks. Let's talk about some key benefits, right? And I think, needless to say, the first thing for with first key benefit is consistent evaluation, right? You compare apples to apples because with AI, you can also configure how you want to evaluate a candidate, right? And the questions that you ask, the response that you are expecting are always consistent, right? So in irrespective of who the interviewer is, the evaluation of the answers is going to be very consistent, which means uh, uh, you are comparing apples to apples against apples to oranges, right? So which is a big benefit. Now, the next thing is it automatically scores. You don't have to worry about scoring notes. The scores are automatically generated, which again, as I told you, in the future, you will know as to how your candidate selection process is based on how the candidates perform, right? If some candidates perform bad, you can go back to the interviews and figure out how did we select them and how can we improve the process, which is a great benefit for organizations. There is video reports, video analysis, everything available, which can be stored forever. And the last key benefit is it's basically enabling you to make deeper conversations and enabling you to use your thinking on strategic decision making. If the basic subject matter expertise can be taken care of by AI, then the hiring manager can then think about stuff that AIs cannot contribute. For example, right, hiring manager knows for this particular role he needs someone who can work under pressure, right? He can work like somebody who can deliver under pressure, or who's a go getter, right? He's not somebody who's very technical but not a go getter, who's very laid back. So in that those kind of conversations, only the human can have, only the hiring manager can have, or the hiring manager is expecting the candidate to be specifically knowledge in a specific thing that is only specific to the organization, right? So those kind of strategic, really specific conversations, the hiring manager can have, and he doesn't have to worry about the basic stuff, the basic subject matter expertise, which also means that you can't replace the human out of the hiring process, right? The human is always there, the human is always needed in the hiring process. So let's talk about what are the key metrics now, because the moment when we spoke about what is AI supported interviews, we saw how it would look like. Then we also spoke about the key benefits. Let's talk about some key metrics, because if you can't measure anything, especially how AI is performing, then you will never know whether it's actually adding value to your organization or not, right? So the most important thing in any process, especially when it comes to AI, is measuring the success of AI. It could be successful, then that's great. If it is not successful, then we need to figure out why it is not successful, and then we need to make the required changes, right? So from our perspective, we always look at a few, but I've added the most important four metrics I think that you should measure as a hiring manager or as an organization. The first thing is, what is the total number of hours the hiring manager has saved by enabling AI supported hiring, right? Previously, if the hiring manager was spending 22 hours to 30 hours interviewing candidates for every role, has that reduced to 10 hours? Has that reduced to 5 hours? Has that reduced to 15 hours? That's a very key metric, because that 7 8 hours, that or 10 hours or 15 hours the hiring manager is getting free time, he can then spend that time on stuff that matter most, right? Like, as I told you, generating revenue for the organization, or bringing in more sales, or coding, right, or launching new products and so forth. That's a lot of valuable time the hiring managers can spend on other things. The second important metric is how is the interview experience? Because as we all know, candidates join an organization based on how their experience was during the hiring process. If the organization is able to provide a positive candidate experience to the candidate, then the chances that the candidate will accept the offer and join is very high. So positive candidate experience is very, very important. Now, through this process, through AI, are we delivering positive candidate experience? One of the key metrics, yeah, one of the key elements of positive candidate experience is then getting back to the candidate quickly and telling them the result, or being in touch with the candidate all the time. Now, with AI supported interviews, are we reducing 3 rounds to 1 round, 3 rounds of interviews to 1 round of interview, which is good for the candidate? And then are we then immediately are we asking valuable questions, and then are we then reaching out to the candidate fast? And is AI supported interviews helping in positive candidate experience? That's a great metric to evaluate. The third most important is AI helping reduce some of the biases, right? As we all know, we are all biased as humans, right? I am biased in a certain way. Everybody else is. So what this means is it reduces diversity. Now, as we all know, there is a lot of science to say that the more the diverse the team is, the better the outcome of the team, right? So with AI, because you are now comparing apples to apples, are you now is your team, or is AI recommending candidates from diverse backgrounds? Is your team becoming more diverse, right? That's a great metric to evaluate, because with human hiring and human interviews, there is always a chance that we all tend to align and pick up candidates from our background, or people who are aligned to our way of thinking and so forth. With technology, with common evaluation, I think that would change, right? And we need to see how much is it changing. The last very important metric is, that's the most important, right? Let's say HR uses AI supported interviews to for initial interviews, and then they select the AI. The AI recommends a few candidates, and then the hiring manager send these AI recommended candidates to the hiring manager. The most critical uh, 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 metric is how many of those candidates are being selected by the hiring manager. Let's say, for example, if AI says that four of the candidates are really good, and then you send all the four candidates to the hiring manager, and if the hiring manager selects all the four after his interviews, that's a 100% success rate. That's a great metric. Let's say if the AI recommends five candidates, and only one or none of the five candidates are selected by the hiring manager, then AI has failed. We need to look at something wrong with the tuning, or something wrong with the expectations of the hiring manager, and how AI is selecting the candidates. So that's a great metric, because ultimately you want you want the best candidates to go through, and you want the hiring manager to be happy, right? He must look at the candidate and say that those are great candidates. So that's a great metric to measure. So these are some of the metrics that I think will add value to your organization. Start incorporating them, and that I think then to measure how AI is performing. So I think we have come to the end of this webinar. As I mentioned, we have got a platform. Please try an interview with recruit.io. Please log in and then try a free trial, see how that works. If you have more information, if you need more information, feel free to reach out to me. So I'll again stop here for any questions. Questions? Okay. Uh, Okay, there is a question around, in our view, what are the roles that are best suited for AI supported interviews against AI conducted interviews? As I mentioned, uh, as I mentioned, anything that requires a human interface, right? For example, senior roles, niche roles, are to be honest, anybody above 40 years of age or 50 years of age, they are still not adapted to fully AI interviews, right? AI taking interviews. In those scenarios, it would be far better if the human can conduct the interviews supported by an AI. And then any role that requires the initial interviews, the hiring managers to conduct deep interviews. This is a really good, genuine tool for this. And then any role that requires a lot of behavioral analysis as well, which requires the human to be in front of the candidate and look at the candidate and talk to the candidate. This will be a really good scenario. AI supported interviews. Okay. Can multiple interviewers join the same interview? Yes, that is possible. Multiple interviewers can join the same interview. That's a very good question. What happens during panel interviews, right? Yes, during panel interviews are also possible through AI supported interviews. In fact, that's a great advantage because when there is a panel interview, right, every interviewer will have their own thought process. They will write notes, and then you got to end of the day correlate all the notes and figure out what the ultimate decision is. Now, with AI supported interviews, the report gets generated, then the interviewers just have to edit the report, and then the AI can then correlate it and provide the final score. Right? Let's say it's a four panel interview, four people. The AI shows the report to all the four people, all of them edit it. Then AI will compare all the edits and provide a final score. Right? So panel interviews are really valuable, and AI supported interviews will help in panel interviews. Any further questions? Okay, cool. That means thank you so much. We have come to the end of this webinar. If you have any queries, feel free to reach out to me on my email address, on my phone number. And if you would like to try the platform, please log in and give it a try. You can chat with us on our platform as well. Hoping to see you in 2 weeks' time with another problem, another AI hiring topic. Until then, thank you. Thank you.